Delicious for delicious malicious compliance. Posted by you/candid porno. I don't know how to use my machine. Okay. It was my first job out of high school. I was hired as a trainee in a large engine reconditioning company. It was one of those family-run businesses that started in the backyard and grew to the point where they might have been making millions, but they were likely spending just as much. All the family members worked there in all the top positions, so you were never going to move up the ladder. I was stationed at an old milling machine. No computer, no smart tech. You mounted a cylinder head in the bay. You manually dragged the milling head over. Visually lowered it until it made contact, then raised it up a 1/100th of a millimeter. Turn the mill on and manually wound the head across the part you will mill. I got pretty good at using this mill. The average heads milled per day was around 21. In one day I'd sometimes do 50. But luckily the worker in the station next to me caught on, and when I was about to report my day's worth of work, he said 21. I was still young and dumb, so I proudly said 50. He corrected me. 21. Tomorrow you pretend to work. Light bulb moment that I always remember to this day. I'm in my 40s now. So, from then on I'd work hard one day, and have an easy day the next. One day the mill needed serious maintenance. The company was so tight that they didn't regularly maintain any of the machines. They waited until they needed repairs. I wrote down the issue I had and mentioned that this mill was not operational. At any random moment, the mill would jump and the head would drop about a millimeter. The diamond tips would gouge the cylinder head and most of the tips would snap. Expensive. Instead of being told thanks for reporting it, we'll get it fixed right away, they told me off for being abusive to the machine. That I didn't know how to use it correctly. Normally when something like this happened, and it happened a lot, they would demote you to the acid wash or the camshaft bearing resurfacer, the shittest job in the company. But instead they sent me to the new laser-guided computerized mill, which was also out of order but had been waiting for the tech to come and resolve the issue. The guide probe that was used when you initially put a new part in there was malfunctioning. The machine would sense the part, and instead of stopping, resetting and then sense the part again at a higher resolution, it would smash the probe into the part and break the tip, costing lots of money. I tried to tell the supervisor that the machine he was sending me to was out of order, but he shut me up before I even opened my mouth. He jumped on the old mill and made me stick around to show me how to do it properly. The mill couldn't have fucked up at any better moment. About 30% into the job, the head dropped a few centimeters, not millimeters. Smashed into the head went flying off the otherwise pretty solid mounts. Scary moment. Being an old mill, you could run this without the guard door shut, which the supervisor did. I went to say to please shut the door, but he shut me up again. Fine. I stood well away. Guess which direction the cylinder head went flying? Right at him. Hit him in the chest, winded him, knocked him to the floor, and I immediately called an ambulance. He was rushed off to hospital and returned to work with some broken ribs. It didn't end there though. He blamed me for everything upon returning to work and said he hoped I continued working on the other mill. I was stationed at the acid wash by another supervisor, another family member. A big box with a cage. We dump parts into it, and back out. Simple. Menial. Perfect. Nothing could really go wrong. I went to say the other mill was broken too, and I tried to remind him that the probes kept snapping. He wanted none of it. Once again showing me how to use the fancy mill. He instructed me to lift the cylinder into the mill and mount it. He programmed the mill for that model head, closed the door, and pressed start. The probe came down and kept going. shattering into the head. He swore so hard he hurt his ribs. "Do you want me to go back to the acid wash now until this is fixed?" I got sent to the area where we removed head studs. Better than the wash. We used blow torches. I guess he didn't want to be told what to do. TLDR, faulty machine reported. Didn't listed to worker. Hospitalist injuries ensue. Return to work. Still don't listen to me. Break more expensive stuff. Posted by you/computer1313. It's just a few lines of code. Some time ago, I was working on a control system overhaul project. Out with the 1990s stuff, in with the newer stuff. One of the feature upgrades that allows the station to automatically handle multiple different model parts was impossible without more hardware and sensors. The previous configuration required several minutes of changeover for different model parts to ensure that the station was properly set for each specific model. I and my supervisor explained to a manager that what they were asking for required a revised budget as there was no feasible way to write the logic to operate without certain inputs. It was essentially asking to install auto-driving functionality into a car that didn't have LiDAR/radar, cameras, or any sort of external sensors, and thus was entirely reliant on the car's built-in GPS to find its way around. It's just a few lines of code. Figure it out. So my team came up with an idea. Have the operator manually input required data before each production cycle starts, which is about every 30 seconds, because existing control system setup just didn't know. Otherwise the cycle will not start. I did ask for operators' input, and they all thought it was incredibly bad idea, but the manager insisted they would get used to it. Operators hated it of course when it went live, and management heard the whining after a half a day of the madness. We were instructed to put in a bypass, and we got management approval to install it after putting our warnings in writing about having a control system blindly operate with a set of assumed conditions that may rapidly change. One of us put in an email statement, "You are asking us to create a self-driving car that assumes that it is on a straight highway and there are nothing in its way at all times, with the press of a button. We can do that, if you have no objections. Have you ever seen a machine drill into itself, severe some high-pressure coolant lines and then attempt to cycle with the super expensive drill bit still tearing into the casted structural components? It was not pretty, as it turned out that super hard drill bits shatter instead of bending when struck by a high-speed transfer mechanism. I wish I could share pictures and more details, but that's against legal department's policy. Edit, the aftermath that people wanted. I don't know the exact money figures of the damages, but the biggest cost was the extended production downtime that the destroyed machine caused, which required several weeks of mandatory overtime production schedules on Saturdays and Sundays on functional production lines to make up for the missed production quotas. The machine itself was down for over 3 weeks. That's well into the multi-million costs of replacement parts, vendors/contractors to fix another client's mistake, repairing the large structural casted components, man-hours to troubleshoot, overtime for lots of people and so on. There were enough competent managers to prevent the manager from getting promoted or etc. And of course everyone's favorite, more anti-idiot procedures were put in place to ensure such future event would not happen again. Although the responsible manager is still around for whatever reason, in a different place with different title, maybe had just enough connections to avoid being shown the doors. Posted BYU/Ends Night Stock. Custard is not a priority. S. My new mantra. Our speed of service, SOS, is trashed because my coworker and I comply maliciously. It's already kinda shit but man. We do a number. Once she got it to 9 minutes. Often there's only 2 of us behind the counter at the fast food chain we work at, and we have no choice but to let a line form because there's custard orders flying in ass backwards fast, and we're both wearing drive-through headsets. At the last meeting, literally first food service job I've ever worked with regular meetings, our district manager went off about how we shouldn't be making custard while guests are waiting in line. Custard isn't a priority, even when there's only 2 of you. I saw a full custard screen tonight. My headset beeped. A line formed in the lobby. There were 3 of us, and the other 2 ended up at registers and I was taking orders in drive. The average SOS time went from 3:06 to 7:23. Some guests waited 12 to 15 minutes for 2 shakes. Sorry, custard isn't a priority, I'm happy to grab my manager for y'all though. When they ask I can't wait to look confused and say I thought custard wasn't a priority. Also a side note, everyone insists it's not ice cream, it's custard, creamier, denser, and richer. Guests don't know what the they're trying to order is called about 80% of the time. We have something similar to a blizzard: milkshakes, malts, cake cones, waffle cones, sundaes, and dishes. When they ask for a small chocolate custard, I list all of that, and a short description of the fake blizzard and sundaes. It's annoying enough to exasperate, but helpful so no one complains. The same thing with burger ingredients. Edit. A sentence, what's proofreading?